everyone believes that going abroad is a breakthrough in life. But there are so many questions coming up because we've had so many cases reported about people abroad committing suicide, struggling in life, being homeless, living in the streets, being deported. So we want to have this discussion. What is really happening abroad that maybe most of us don't know back home? You know, because we always know that someone has gone abroad, the next thing is their life is now somewhere else, very successful, very living a happy life. But we don't know life behind that, you know. There are things behind the cameras that are never brought to the limelight. Being abroad is really challenging. If you are back home and you are thinking of coming abroad and having a happy life, a good life, no, one fact is life is abroad is not a bed of roses. Going abroad doesn't guarantee you that you'll have a successful life. You know, there are so many challenges people face abroad. Personally, I'm in Australia, so I want us to discuss how life out in Australia is. Because one thing I know, most people come to Australia as students. It's very hard, or it's very rare to hear someone has come from Africa to Australia on a working visa. So most people, 90% of the people who visit Australia come as students from Africa. So how's life as a student in Australia? Most people think that coming to Australia, everything is smooth. But no one will ever tell you the struggles they go through when they get to Australia. So many people have come to Australia, struggled within the first 3 months, 4 months, they feel like going back home. Reason being, life here is very fast, you know. Life is really challenging. You have so many things to pay. You have to struggle with work. You are trying to cope up with work, because when you come to Australia, don't expect to get a white collar job. You have to be very flexible to do any regular job. You know, maybe back home you're working in a bank, you're working in an office, having a good job where you go sit on your chair and relax. Coming here, you have to do manual jobs. That's one fact. You'll never get an office job when you come into Australia as a student. So when you come here, you have to be very flexible. So for someone who was back home working maybe as an accountant or working in a very good company, having their life, you know, you feel like now you are the boss. But when you get here, things are different. You're in the same level with that person who cleared high school and came to Australia. So those are the things that really makes life hard here, you know, because you come here thinking that just life will be as smooth as you thought. Life will be easy, you just easily get a job because you feel like you're qualified back home, you're having a good job back home. Getting here, things are different. Because one fact, when you come to Australia, they never recognize any qualification that you had back home. That's why you have to go back to school, and if you had done any course, it will not be recognized. You have to redo the course again. So that's one of the big challenges. When people come here, they have high expectations. They think that the life they are living back home will just be, they'll get it from there moving forward. No, life will start, you go back to zero, then you start. Job searching, struggling with school, struggling with driving, struggling with life here, culture shock, everything. There are so many challenges people go through here. And if people can come out and tell you the struggles they went through when settling in Australia, it's overwhelming, you know. It's really hard. Another challenge is that living as a student, you have to go to school, you have to pay bills. Most people, if you have to pay your school fees, you know. And another challenge, getting a job. It's not as easy as you think. Getting a job in Australia, you come here, you have to get all the paperwork that are needed here for you to apply for a job. Number one, you have to get a police check. You have to get a workers with children check if you are in any job, in any field, you have to have the compliance certificate. Maybe like the, if we are working maybe in the construction, there is the white card. If you are working in the healthcare industry, you have the first aid, you have the manual handling, you have the CPR. You know, you have so many papers to acquire. You have the NDIS screen check. All those takes time to acquire. Also, you have to have a certificate of qualification. You know, so many certificates that are needed here for you to acquire a first job. Because if you come here, of course, any qualification you had home can't be recognized here. So you have to have that qualification Australian, with the Australian standards, for you to get a job. So that takes time. That will take you roughly 2 to 3 months to get all those papers together. So those 3 months, they are really overwhelming and challenging. So that's the time so many people go under depression. They are so stressed, struggling, because at that time you have to go to school. School fees is waiting for you, bills. If someone was hosting you here, someone is expecting you even to contribute something, you know, because bills every day coming in. So someone is expecting you to contribute to the bills that they are being paid in the house. Another thing, maybe you're struggling to go to school, you want to get a job, you're still struggling to get there because maybe you're catching public transport everywhere. And using public transport here is one of the challenging things, you know, because it's not really reliable as such. And also most of the jobs require you to have a car. For you to be trusted that you'll be arriving at work on time, so you have to have a car. At that time you're still struggling with driving. Maybe you're not driving back home, you come here, you're starting to drive, and here roads are really challenging, everything is really hard. So everything hits you on the head at one go. So that's as a student. So those are the struggles that people go through when they get to Australia. And if you don't really catch up very quick with that, life will be hard for you, because in 4 months time you need to pay your school fees. So if you haven't really gotten a job and started saving some money, you know, school fees is coming your way. Also back home, people start asking you for money. You wonder, they don't really know the struggles you're still going through here. You haven't even acquired a job and they expect you to send them something, you know. So people back home, always you have to understand that coming abroad doesn't mean that people come and land on good jobs, come and just start collecting dollars here. No, people come and struggle here before they settle down. But one thing is, when you come here, with time you settle down and things become better. Every year things become better and better and better. So that's one positive thing. But also with time, things, if you don't plan yourself early, things will get harder, because you are here as a student. You are here on a student visa, and after you completing your studies, the student visa will expire. So what's next for you? You know, that's why you'll see most people being deported because their visa expired, they didn't go to school, all sorts of stuff. So when you come here, you have to plan yourself, plan ahead, because you know your visa is 2 years if you are doing a master's degree, 3 years if you are doing a degree program. So you have to plan ahead, know that after this my visa expires, what's next? Because if you don't have if you're not pursuing a course that will lead you to maybe to being a permanent resident here or getting a good job here that can sponsor you to stay in this country, what's next for you? So if you don't really plan yourself, time will come and you'll just have to go back home. And that's when people get into depression, stress, because they don't want to go back home. Maybe you haven't done any investment back home. You are still hoping maybe to clear your studies, then you can now settle and start life here. But now you didn't plan yourself. Your visa is expiring. You don't know what to do next. You don't want to go back to school. You know, so those are the challenges that most people go through when they come to Australia or they go abroad. Because most people are on visas and the visa expires. So if it's expired and you don't want to go back home, you'll be in the streets. You'll be caught, and that's why people go to the street and just live as street people where they don't have any form of documentation to prove that they're in this country legally or illegally. So that's why people prefer going to, most people go to the street to live as street people, because life becomes miserable. You know, you give up in life, you get into depression, drugs, alcohol, all sorts of stuff. That's when life really becomes challenging. So I would love to encourage people abroad, have that small community. You know, if you have a group of friends, share your ideas, share your struggles, share your life. If you have friends who are helpful to you, they can help you. If you're struggling with something, they'll come through for you and they can help you. That's why it's always good to attend those social groups. If you're having an African church, it's always good to attend that, so that you can have connections with your people who they can come for your rescue when you need help. You know, so I encourage anyone who's abroad, try getting a group of people, a group from your community, from your country, who they can come for you and they can help you out when you need help, you know, because here we are foreigners. Don't expect anyone from this country maybe to come for your rescue because you are foreigner. Even the government itself will just ask you go back home for your help. Because even last time we remember when COVID hit and students were struggling with work, and the government said if you feel like you can't support yourself, go back to your country, you know.
That end. In terms of students, the Immigration Minister, Acting Immigration Minister I should say, will have more to say about other visa holders and the arrangements the government is coming to for those, and I'll leave that to him to make those announcements in coming days. People should know though, in particular for students, all students who come to Australia in their first year have to give a warranty that they are able to support themselves for the first 12 months of their study. That is a requirement of their visa when they come for that first year. And so that is not an unreasonable expectation of the government that students would be able to fulfil the commitment that they gave. Now, these visas and those who are in Australia under various visa arrangements, they're obviously not held here compulsorily. If they're not in a position to be able to support themselves, then there is the alternative for them to return to their home countries. We still have quite a number of people who are here on visitor visas. As much as it's lovely to have visitors to Australia in good times, at times like this, if you're a visitor in this country, it is time, as it has been now for some while, and I know many visitors have, to make your way home and to ensure that you can receive the supports that are available where they are in your home countries. At this time, Australia must focus on its citizens and its residents to ensure that we can maximise the economic supports that we have. But there are many students who are in Australia. That's why we lifted the hour restrictions on student nurses, for example. Some 20,000 additional student nurses then became available into our health system. That's very important. For those backpackers in Australia who are nurses or doctors or have other critical skills that can really help us during this crisis, then there'll be opportunities for them as well. But our focus and our priority is on supporting Australians and Australian residents with the economic supports that are available.
So that shows you that you are alone here. If your community can't help you, you have to go back home. So let's come together maybe as a community, African community, always have those social groups, share ideas, share our struggle, motivate each other. You know, that will be so helpful. So I think that's it for today, guys, and we shall still have more conversations on this. So because there's this video that came out, you can watch this video, and also you can leave your comments below and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thank you guys, bye bye.
It is very sad that the Kenyan community has lost yet another young Kenyan, a promising Kenyan.
The recent death of a Kenyan, which happened here in this hospital in Marietta, a few kilometers from the city of Atlanta, has rekindled debate over whether the Kenyan community here is as close-knit as previously thought. It also raises questions over whether it's a good idea for Kenyans to keep to themselves, and whether those who isolate themselves are justified to claim neglect when faced with misfortune. Now, this is one of those topics that most Kenyans out here do not want to discuss, and when they do so in harsh tones or in whispers.
There is a lot of people who have ended up killing themselves Others have even departed, gone home. And others, some of them have decided life is no more. They just live in the streets. I've seen some of the Kenyans here who are living in the streets.
Alfred Mugo Kimonye came to the US in 1996, went to one of the best colleges here, Kennesaw State University, and excelled, graduating with a bachelor's degree in information technology. Some of his former classmates and people who knew him well but who did not wish to appear on camera say that he got a well-paying job with Apple Corporation, a prestigious US computer software company. All was well until he had a run-in with the law, losing everything, including his own identity. Without a job and with little hope of ever getting back on his feet, Mugo sank into depression, ending up homeless here in Marietta, Georgia. He lived here in this neighborhood together with other homeless persons. In fact, it was from this street that he was taken to hospital when he fell ill. He had contracted lung infection and was rushed to hospital, where he died later. The question now is whether the Kenyan community here could have done something, anything, to help him and others.
As much as possible, we need to interact with Kenyans in any event so that you get to know one another. And in that way, you will not be asking ourselves, who is this guy or where does he go to church? The thing is, we have a very huge Kenyan community here in the US, and particularly where this guy used to stay.
Yet his case is not isolated. Recently, we reported of another Kenyan, Timothy Majanja Rukalia, who is living in deplorable conditions on another side of town.
I am just, I thought I was strong enough, but it's coming to a point where I need help.
2 years ago, we reported of another Kenyan who died after plunging into this river in Boston, Massachusetts. Last May, the Kenyan community here raised funds to help a Kenyan who lived in this forest in Decatur, Georgia, to travel back home. And the list is long. In fact, many are the cases which do not get reported because of the stigma associated with homelessness. Timothy Sodera, a Kenyan professor based here, has worked in many US cities and has been observing the trends of immigrant communities.
There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of things that are pressing, taxes, bills every time. So that's why most of the people end up messing and killing themselves. They cannot stand the pressure.
Do you think what many Kenyans out there think America is what it is?
Absolutely no. That's not the way it is.